John, I really hope you're ready for the comment section on this video, because it's going to be a dumpster fire of epic proportions. What flavor do you like your death threats? Welcome to Daddy's Money Garage. Current events, John. We're not doing work on cars.
We're never doing work on cars.
Doing work on cars. Current events. What are we talking about today, John? How we contributed to one of the best
Don't say
things.
we contributed. That's not my fault. None of our faults, really.
Here's the thing, alright? I'm the one that knew how to do it, and I'm the one that told 600,000 people how to do it.
Is it that many?
Yeah. The current event that we're going to be talking about today in the automotive world is the fact that the once great Vermont loophole has been closed. I don't want to say we helped, but we kind of told a bunch of people about it. And those people just went and fucked it up for everybody. To those of you who may not know what the Vermont loophole is, or was, it was this great system for getting a title for a car that did not have a title. Barn finds, motorcycles, old cars that maybe the title got lost to forever and you can't find it, could all be retitled using this Vermont loophole. It saved tons of cars from the crusher, but it was abused. And there's things that were put into place that allowed it to be abused. It wasn't that everybody found out about it, because it wasn't a secret. It was on their website. You could go to their DMV website and follow their steps, and they told you exactly how to utilize the Vermont loophole. So the Vermont loophole was not necessarily a loophole as much as it was just a provision that people used in Vermont law that allowed them to obtain a title for a car that did not have a title in their state by registering it in the state of Vermont. Now, how did this work? So, Vermont does not require you to, or they didn't require you to live in Vermont to register a car there. And if the car was 15 years old or older, and it rolled every year, like this year to 2023, a car that was manufactured in 2008 could now be registered.
You could Vermont loophole a Dodge Avenger.
God, I don't know why you would, but you could. Cars that were older than 15 years and registered in Vermont were not necessarily issued a title as most states would put it. Cars that were newer than 15 years do have Vermont titles. But in situations with cars older than 15 years, the registration itself acted as the title in Vermont. And what people would do is they would mail the registration paperwork to Vermont along with the car's information and all other required documents, have them register in Vermont. They would send a plate and registration from Vermont in the mail. You would take those documents to your state's DMV and they would issue you a title in your state, because Vermont doesn't issue titles on cars that are older than 15 years, so they would have to cut you a new title. We illustrated that whole process in a video on Uncle Tony's Garage that took off, and like I said, some ungodly amount of people found out about it, and some ungodly amount of people thought that it didn't work. I have said multiple times that this worked, and if you still don't believe me, that's the plate from the jet from where we did it ourselves legally, and everything was fine. They have closed the loophole as of this month,
July of 23.
I can't help but feel a little bit guilty, but at the same time, it's not our fault at all. The reason that Vermont has closed this loophole is because people were basically running their own DMVs. The Autopian wrote an article on this whole thing. You can read it. I'll put it in the description. But here's the thing, right? In that article, they say that there were people that were running to Vermont to drop off the paperwork, and then when they would get rejected and the paperwork would be sent back, these runners would go back and be very, very angry with the DMV personnel.
Enough that they put cops at the DMV. I've never been mad enough at a DMV.
I have been. I have a bit of a question about this this assertion. You didn't have to go to Vermont to file the paperwork. You could do it all by the mail. So either one, this claim is very exaggerated, or two, there's some dumb motherfuckers actually going to Vermont to turn in the paperwork by hand and then waiting for it to come back to them in the mail. Which one do you think is more likely, John?
Well, considering that the guy with the state of Vermont's DMV said there were people getting, like, belligerently, violently angry at DMVs because I guess they were being told, hey, this is the same signature that's been on this paperwork 14 times this week. That seems like crimes. What's going on, bud?
What does a situation like that look like when you go to the DMV and you're dropping off, like, registration paperwork for 25 cars you don't own at a time once a month, like, and they get rejected? Like, what does this look like? I can't believe you rejected the paperwork I filled out incorrectly. What is the DMV person going to do?
They're not going to do anything about it. But, like, here's the thing. These people were going there often enough, they got flagged. So, like, the guy at the DMV was processing the same paperwork from the same people often enough that he recognized that's the same ID number, name, signature, everything on... How many cars did these guys wash?
That leads into the next thing, right? It sounds kind of weird that the DMV was getting that many people angry. But what about stolen cars? In the video that blew up on Uncle Tony's Garage, I said that the process of the Vermont loophole does not work on stolen cars. At the time, that was incorrect, because it most definitely would. But the reason that it worked at the time was because up until the COVID-19 pandemic, Vermont required you to have the VIN number verified by a peace officer, a DMV official, anybody,
car dealer,
anybody with a badge and a gun, or somebody who could sign on behalf of the state. They had to run the VIN number for an out-of-state registration in Vermont to verify that the car was not stolen or salvaged or anything weird about it. But they suspended that during the pandemic because of the whole, like, social distance thing. You know, I guess let's just open up a floodgate of people to steal cars and register them in Vermont, right? That just sounds like a good idea. Here's the thing, though. If they also closed it because of stolen cars trying to be registered in Vermont, the easiest thing that would fix that problem would just be to reinstate the required VIN verification. Even during the pandemic, I think it was still required on motorcycles. That I'm not 100% sure of, but I think it still was. Because motorcycles get stolen way more than cars. Also, let's just be real here. If you're stealing a car and you're gonna go try to register it with a state agency, you deserve to get caught. You're not changing the VIN number, you're just registering it and getting a title for it. It only takes about 10 seconds to look it up and see that the VIN number was reported stolen. So I have a hard time buying the people registering stolen cars thing too, because they could have easily fixed that. They also talk about one of the reasons they cited it was because people were using it to subvert tax laws. I also don't buy that. Yes, the taxes in Vermont were cheaper, but if you were doing the loophole properly, you still had to go and register your car in your state. Every state requires you to register a car you're going to drive in that state if you live there in that state. So you would still have to pay to get it retitled in that state. So if you were doing the loophole properly, you weren't subverting your state's taxes. You were actually paying extra taxes to Vermont and then paying when you got it retitled. Ask me how I know. I paid taxes on the car twice and we got the car for free. Thanks, Obama. Now you can come to your own conclusions as to why the Vermont loophole was closed. I'm just telling you that in my head, it doesn't make a lot of sense. You can do whatever you want with my opinion. Now let me tell you why I think the loophole actually got closed. I am a legal professional. I deal with legal documents every day, filling out documents that, you know, the average person would probably have a lot of difficulty filling out. Some of them have to only be sent physical mail, like the Vermont loophole. And when those documents get denied, it just jams up the whole system. Everything slows to a halt on whatever you're working on. Now, you're not only clogging up your own project when your documents get kicked back, but you're also wasting the DMV's time because they're sitting there processing this and not making any money because the check for the title in Vermont did not clear unless the paperwork was done properly. So there were probably countless man hours wasted on going through these documents that were likely filled out improperly, and they got sick of people sending in all of their bullshit car stuff from the DMV mills, and people who just didn't read the instructions on the paperwork. They probably got so bad to the point that they were just like, we're just done doing this. It probably became too much of a pain in the ass for the state of Vermont to keep paying these people to go through these documents all the time that weren't going to make any money.
And pay for security, and then people charging back on the registration fees on their credit cards.
You can't pay with a card.
Oh yeah, you can't.
You had to pay with a check.
You had to pay with a check.
You can do your own research and figure out why, you know, the people were saying the Vermont loophole is closed, but I'm telling you, from a legal professional's point of view, it's likely because they got sick of doing all the paperwork and not making any money off of the wrong stuff and it got kicked back. So, did we have the Vermont loophole closed?
No.
If you watched our video, you would have filled out the paperwork right.
I know 3 exact people that followed our video and got their cars titled through Vermont, actually.
Yeah, I actually received a lot of messages saying, thank you for making this video. I can't believe it. I followed it and I got my car titled.
Somebody in Illinois and Indiana, the 2 states that people really complained about that being impossible in.
And Illinois is a place where logical laws go to die.
Oh yeah.
Did you know that in Illinois, you can't get like a car re-registered if the previous owner died and didn't sign the title beforehand? That means that your grandpappy's heirloom Barracuda is going to be crushed if he's in Illinois and he doesn't sign the title on his deathbed. So good luck with that, Illinois. I'm very sad to see that the Vermont loophole is gone. Do I feel like we contributed to it by assisting in telling tons of people about it? The thing is that these DMV mills that we mentioned earlier existed before we told everybody. That's what a lot of people were just doing. They were just, yeah, I'll get your title for you, and then running it through Vermont. So chances are that a combination of nefarious uses of the DMV mills and people not filling out the paperwork properly, clogging up everything, was just too much. Dude, this comment section is gonna rip us a new asshole.
Not my fault.
I can't wait, man. Send all your death threats to the email address below, and I'll promptly read them and send them to John. Catch you in the next one.